field, so to speak? Are we still potentially going to move forward as though we have those dollars, or are those operational methods, whatever we just mentioned, going to expire? They're going to go away, are the positions going away and everything else?
That's a decision for the body, sir.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm asking the question, because if we're calling it a $7 million shortfall because the dollars are gone and we're still planning to operate as though they have not, then absolutely that'll cause a shortfall, that'll cause a hole. But if those dollars are gone and we operate as though those dollars are gone, then there's no deficit. Those dollars have just expired. Am I understanding that incorrectly? And please feel free to tell me I am if I am.
No, I think you're right, sir. It's just, we've used that to balance the 2025 budget. And then decisions will need to be made in going forward, either this year to eliminate those programs or redirect the funding or find other.
So basically we're saying we have a hole that's not really a hole. It's only a hole if the commission decides to move forward as normal. But if the commission decides to cut those programs or to operate as though those dollars have expired, then there would not be a $7 million hole.
We would have to reduce the current programming levels, yes, sir.
I mean, that's a conversation that should be held during this budget cycle. Right. I mean, how can we even begin to say that the budget is ready to be passed today when something as serious as ARP money or housing dollars or federal legislation has not been dug into? I mean, I think that's where the frustration is coming from right now, and it's not frustration directed towards anybody specifically, but we need to have those conversations about how we want this government to look going into 25 versus saying we're just going to go in the 24 way and we're just going to figure it out. Eventually, we're going to have to dig into this. And I wanted to ask those questions on the floor because I'm not sure that there's full understanding about how serious what we're talking about is. If those $7 million are gone, then we shouldn't be budgeting for something that's not there. Therefore, we shouldn't be out here saying we have a $7 million hole. So I'm gonna leave the queue because I'm just gonna leave the queue. I think that we need to do a little bit more digging before we start passing this thing.
If I can respond, Commissioner Johnson, you're exactly right. And that's what I've been asking, is for us to have the time to do the digging. We have, we had something called Hurricane Helene come up. And I can assure you, if I had the time to sit and go through every department and reduce any respective overspending, I would. I am all about making sure we're fiscally responsible. But we have done as best we can at this time. The majority of that 8.7 million was 5.5 million in the water meters that was coming from the utilities for ARPA funds. So it's not necessarily the entire $7 to $8 million is based on personnel and those things. Please note that we are doing what we can to look forward to 2025, and that's why we're asking for that additional time, to give us time to do and perform the due diligence that I think you're asking us to do. But not approving this budget today and putting it to next week is still not going to bring us the $7 to $10 million that people are requesting.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Allen, as a follow-up. Why not? What additional efforts would we need between yourself, the finance department, and our departments to come together to decide where? Last year when we had these 1% budget cuts, it was said on the floor to go find the money, and a week or two later, the money magically appeared. And again, this is not directed towards you. All I'm saying is you have presented what you could present, and I appreciate you for that. But just to say that we didn't have the time to do it doesn't suffice, because we still have to operate our government. And to wait first quarter next year, it might help us, but I mean, it's like we're going into another year in the dark and not really knowing what's going to present itself first quarter. First quarter might turn into second quarter. So I'm just asking, just from a goodwill faith perspective, what type of time frame would you need to sit down with our HR department, with the finance department, to really dig in to figure out where can we make some sacrifices to fill some of these holes, and then what additional time do the commission need to dedicate in order to figure out what we want to do with this perceived shortfall? We have, and please don't mistake that we have not been digging and staying here late nights and going through this. I don't want to give that impression at all, because I will commend this team for staying many nights, working on weekends and everything else with me
to go through this budget. So they have done a phenomenal job in trying to dig. I have talked to every new official elect coming on board, judges and everybody else, to make sure that I take the time to express where we currently are. So we are doing everything that we possibly could be doing in less than 60 days to provide you a balanced budget. But I do want you to be cautious. These decisions and where we are today didn't just start today. This has been ongoing for a couple of years, a few years. So you're asking us to come back in less than 60 days and have the magic pill. There is no magic pill at this point. In order for me to even diagnose and submit a pill to solve the problem that we're sitting in Augusta is right now, it's going to take that diligence and it's going to take that time. And I want to do it right.
About how many days you
We
think
have
you're gonna
done all of these things in the past without thinking forwardly and without thinking when we did these various contracts like train and things of that nature. Now we have to come back and pay the maintenance on it. These are things that are a part of this budget that may have been great decisions. I'm not questioning that. But what I am saying is give us the necessary time. I ask to come back by the end of February with something that hopefully can be palatable for you to digest. That's all I've asked, and that's all I've asked any of the elected officials that are coming on board is to give us the time to do that properly. I can go back in the room right now in 30 minutes and say I'm cutting this. But it is not going to be the right solution that I feel I'm comfortable with doing just to make a certain group happy. You need to make all the employees happy. Everybody needs to be considered, not just a certain group that are on board. We need to make sure all our employees are taken care of. And I want to do that. And I want to make sure that if there are any expenditures that are out of line, that I bring that back to you and say, you know what, we need to reduce this because we're not getting our bang for the buck. I want our citizens to get their bang for the buck. They deserve to get that. But I have to have the time to be able to bring that back to you. And that is all I'm asking, Commissioner Johnson.
So about 60 days.
End of February, yes, sir.
60 days.
You're
All
welcome.
right, Commissioner from the first yields. Chair recognizes Commissioner Catherine Smith McKnight from the third. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you, Administrator Allen, for what you put together. You and I have had a few conversations, and I'm putting my faith and trust in you. And I do want to say this. It seems like my colleagues and I are speaking the same language when it comes to we can't put a price on public safety. I mean, there's no way. With 43 murders and 40 fatalities this year, that's a lot more. That's, to me, a lot more than last year.